It was the last day of classes at St. Michael's State School, an old institution full of stories. The hallways were filled with laughter and goodbyes, but one group of students couldn't ignore their consuming curiosity. John, Anna, Peter, and Claire were inseparable friends, always seeking adventures. And on that last day of classes, they decided it was time to explore the school's basement, a place always shrouded in rumors and mysteries. Basement was a forbidden place. Students were constantly warned by teachers not to go near it, and even the janitors seemed to avoid the area. They said something terrible had happened there many years ago. Some stories spoke of a missing student, while others mentioned paranormal activity. The mystery surrounding the basement only fueled the curiosity of the four friends. "Are we really going to do this?" John, the leader of the group, asked with a mischievous smile. The others nodded, though hesitantly. They knew they were breaking the rules, but the desire to uncover the truth was stronger. They waited until the end of the day, when most students had already left. Equipped with flashlights and a camera, they descended to the basement. The door was locked. Peter, always resourceful, found a key in the janitor's cabinet. With hearts pounding, John turned the key in the lock, and the door opened with a creak. The darkness of the basement seemed to swallow the light from their flashlights. The walls were cold and damp, and the air smelled of mold and decay. They descended the stairs carefully, each step echoing in the empty corridors. Anna, always the most sensitive, held Claire's hand, who tried to mask her fear with forced courage. "Let's stay together and not touch anything," John said, trying to keep the group calm. They began exploring the basement, illuminating walls covered with old graffiti and shelves filled with dusty objects. They found old books, cardboard boxes, and broken school equipment. But it was at the back of the basement that they made the most disturbing discovery. An old, rusty door was partially open, revealing a small, dark room. They entered cautiously, illuminating the space with their flashlights. In the center of the room was a table covered with papers and strange objects. But what caught their attention the most was an old diary with a worn leather cover. Peter picked up the diary and began flipping through the pages. "It seems like it belonged to a student," he said, reading the entries aloud. The diary entries spoke of a student named Raphael, who had studied at the school many years ago. Raphael described strange events happening in the basement, whispering voices, objects moving on their own, and a malevolent presence that seemed to be watching him. "This is really weird," Claire murmured, looking around nervously. "Maybe we should leave." But John was determined to find out more. "Let's keep reading," he said. "Maybe it will explain what really happened." Peter continued reading the diary entries. Raphael wrote about a night when he decided to confront the presence in the basement. He described lighting a candle and invoking the spirit, feeling a powerful and malevolent energy around him. The last pages of the diary were stained and almost illegible. The words, "Help me," were clearly written several times. Suddenly, the flashlights began to flicker, and a cold wind blew through the room. The friends looked at each other, fear growing within them. "We need to get out of here now," Anna said, her voice trembling. As they turned to leave, the room door slammed shut with a bang. They tried to open it, but it seemed locked. Panic set in among the group. "What are we going to do?" Claire screamed, banging on the door. That's when they heard a whisper. A low, scary voice filled the room, speaking incomprehensible words. Flashlights flickered again, and a shadowy figure appeared in the corner of the room. It was tall and indistinct, the living shadow. The friends backed away, caught between fear and curiosity. "Who's there?" John shouted, trying to stay brave. Figure moved, slowly approaching. "You shouldn't be here," voice said, echoing through the room's walls. "This place is cursed." Peter clutched the diary tightly. "We just want to know what happened to Raphael," he said, his voice trembling. The figure paused as if pondering the answer. "Raphael challenged the spirits of this place and paid the price. Why, his soul is trapped here, just like all those who dared to challenge the basement." The friends exchanged terrified glances. "We need to leave," Anna said, tears in her eyes. "There is a way to free the souls." Figure continued. "You must find the symbol of peace, hidden in this basement, and use it to break the curse." "Symbol of peace?" John asked. "Where can we find it?" Follow the signs, figure replied before disappearing into the darkness. Friends had no choice. They needed to find the symbol and free the souls, or they would be trapped in the basement forever. They began searching frantically, illuminating every corner of the basement. Peter held the diary, looking for clues in the pages. Raphael mentioned something about a symbol drawn on one of the walls, said. He went from wall to wall, looking for any signs or marks. Finally, Claire found a strange drawing behind a shelf. It was a circle with a triangle in the middle, surrounded by ancient runes. I think this is it, he said, pointing to the symbol. How do we use it? John asked. Maybe we need to recite a prayer or incantation, Peter suggested, flipping through the diary. He found a passage that seemed to be an invocation of peace. Let's try this. They gathered around the symbol and began reciting the passage from the diary. The words sounded strange and ancient, but they continued, their voices echoing through the basement. When they finished, a bright light emanated from the symbol, illuminating the entire basement. The room door opened with a creak, and the shadowy figure reappeared, now with an expression of relief. You did it, the voice said. The souls are free. Friends felt a wave of relief and happiness. Can we leave now? Claire asked. Yes, the figure replied. But remember, this place still holds secrets. Be careful. With that, the figure disappeared, and the basement returned to normal. The friends quickly left, climbing the stairs back to the safety of the school. They were exhausted, but relieved to have survived. In the days that followed, John, Anna, Peter, and Claire shared their story with some classmates. Few believed them. However, they knew they had experienced something extraordinary. The experience brought them even closer. And they vowed never to forget what had happened on that last day of classes. And so, the legend of the basement of St. Michael's State School continued to grow. The rumors persisted, and new students heard about the brave ones who faced the school's hidden secret. But for John, Anna, Peter, and Claire, the basement would never again be just a place of mystery. It was a reminder that courage and friendship could overcome even the greatest terrors. Eventually, the school administration learned about the events in the basement. The principal, skeptical and practical man, decided to investigate on his own. But when he descended into the basement, he found only old objects and crumbling walls. The signs of the supernatural encounter were there, but he preferred to believe it was all just the fertile imagination of teenagers. However, he decided to lock the basement for good and put up warning signs to prevent other students from attempting to explore the place. The janitors reinforced the security, and the door was sealed. Still, the basement remained a place of fascination and fear, fueling hallway conversations and whispers during breaks. The group of friends, on the other hand, continued with their school lives but never forgot the adventure. Every time they passed by the basement, a chill ran down their spines, reminding them of what they had faced. They decided to keep Raphael's diary as a memento and a warning for the future. The diary, now kept at John's house, became an object of study and curiosity. They tried to decipher more of Raphael's notes, seeking to understand better what had happened in the past and if there were more secrets to uncover. Their meetings, initially filled with fear, turned into research and discussion sessions, further strengthening their friendship. Over time, they realized that horror stories and dark secrets were not exclusive to their school. Other old institutions also had their legends, and the group decided that, when given the opportunity, they would investigate other similar mysteries. This decision led them to new adventures. The story of the basement at St. Michael's State School remained the most impactful of all. The courage and determination shown on that last day of classes defined the group, teaching them the importance of facing fears and never underestimating the power of friendship. And so, the story of the basement continued to be told, inspiring and scaring new generations of students. For John, Anna, Peter, and Claire, the last day of classes was more than just a farewell. It was the beginning of a journey to uncover the world's mysteries, a journey that had only just begun. While John, Anna, Peter, and Claire faced their fears in the basement of St. Michael's State School, another equally disturbing story was unfolding at another school. St. Clair High School was modern, but carried a dark history of tragedy that few knew deeply about. It was the last day of classes, and a group of friends, Mary, Luke, Bianca, and Ralph, were excited about the holiday. They were inseparable, and like all young people, loved a good horror story. That morning, while they gathered in the courtyard, a new student named Isabel approached. She had been recently transferred and was still adjusting to the new school. Isabel was quiet and reserved. Something about her caught the group's attention. Perhaps it was her mysterious demeanor or the fact that she seemed to know the school very well despite being new. When the conversation turned to horror stories and urban legends, Isabel mentioned something that caught everyone's attention. "Have you ever heard about the ghost student?" She asked with a serious expression. Mary frowned. "Ghost student? Never heard of it. Who is she?" Isabel looked around, making sure no one else was listening, and began to tell the story. They say that many years ago, a student named Laura died tragically at the school. Since then, her spirit haunts the hallways, appearing only on the last day of classes. Those who have seen her say she is searching for something, but no one knows what it is. Luke laughed, trying to hide his discomfort. "That sounds like one of those stories to scare freshmen, are you sure?" Isabel nodded. "My old school had its legends too. Some were just stories, but others were true. I believe there's more to this story." Bianca, always the most curious of the group, suggested they investigate. "Why not? Let's stay at the school a bit later and see if we find anything. Who knows, we might discover the truth about the ghost student." Ralph agreed, though somewhat hesitantly. "Could be fun, but let's be careful, okay?" And so they decided that night they would stay at the school after all the other students had left. The plan was simple. Explore the hallways, especially the oldest ones, where Laura's presence was most frequently reported. As the afternoon turned to night, the school emptied out. Friends met in Mary's classroom, where she had brought some flashlights and snack. "We have to be prepared for anything," she said, trying to keep the adventurous spirit alive. When the last teacher left and the main lights were turned off, they began their investigation. The silence of the school at night was oppressive. Every little sound seemed amplified. The hallways, usually full of life, now looked like dark and scary labyrinth. They started in the oldest wing of the school, where the rumors about the ghost student were strongest. The walls had commemorative plaques and old photos, memories of past decades. As they advanced, Mary noticed something strange. "Feels like we're being watched," she whispered, gripping the flashlight tightly. Luke, trying to be brave, laughed nervously. "It's just our imagination. We're letting Isabel's story get to us." But Isabel was serious. "It's not imagination. There's something here. I can feel it." Suddenly a cold breeze swept through the hallway, making everyone shiver. Flashlights began to flicker, and Bianca felt a chill run down her spine. "This isn't right. Let's keep moving." They reached the classroom where Laura was supposedly last seen. The door was ajar, and a faint sound of crying seemed to emanate from within. With hearts pounding, Ralph pushed the door open slowly. The room was dark except for a faint glow in the corner. When they illuminated the corner, they saw a pale and translucent figure. A young girl with long hair wearing an old-school uniform. She was facing away from them, crying softly. Mary tried to approach, but Luke held her arm. "Wait, we have to be careful." The figure turned slowly, revealing a beautiful but sad face. "Can you help me?" the ghost student asked, voice echoing in the room. "I'm lost." The friends were paralyzed with fear, but Isabel, feeling an inexplicable connection with the spirit, took a step forward. "How can we help you?" she asked gently. Laura looked at them with sad eyes. "I was waiting for my brother that day. We were supposed to meet, but he never showed up. I need to know what happened to him." Bianca frowned. "Your brother? What's his name?" "Richard," Laura replied. "He studied here too, but disappeared the same day I did. I can't rest without knowing what happened to him." The friends exchanged looks, understanding the gravity of the situation. "We'll look for him," Ralph said. "Maybe there are old records in the library or the principal's office." With a new purpose, the friends headed to the library. Isabel seemed to lead, as if she knew exactly where to look. "The old records should be somewhere around here," she said, flipping through books and files. After some time, Bianca found an old-school yearbook. "Here it is," she exclaimed, showing a photo of Richard. He looked like a happy boy, similar to Laura. We need to find more information about what happened to him. They continued their search, now focusing on school record. They found an old newspaper article reporting a car accident near the school on the day Laura and Richard disappeared. Seems Richard's car was found in the nearby river, Luke read aloud. They never found his body. Mary felt a shiver. That means he might have died in the accident. Laura never knew. They returned to the classroom where Laura was still waiting. We found some information, Isabel said, showing the yearbook and article. It seems your brother had an accident that day. They never found his body, but he probably didn't survive. Laura looked at the documents, ghostly tears streaming down her face. Now I understand, she said, her voice filled with sadness. I was waiting for something that would never come. The friends stood in silence, feeling Laura's pain. Can you rest now? Ralph asked, hopeful. Laura nodded, a faint smile appearing on her face. Yes, thank you for helping me. I can finally find peace. With those words, Laura's figure began to fade slowly until the room was dark again. The friends felt a mix of relief and sadness. Think we did the right thing, Mary said, breaking the silence. Definitely, Luke agreed. It was scary, but important. They left the room and returned to the courtyard, where they sat to process what had happened. That was an experience we'll never forget, Bianca said. But at least now we know we helped a lost soul. Isabel smiled. Thank you for believing me and helping Laura. You are amazing friends. In the following days, the friends reflected on the experience. Laura's story spread through the school. Many students remained skeptical. However, those who believed knew Laura's presence had been a call to look more closely at unresolved secrets and stories around them. 4 friends continued to investigate urban legends and horror stories, strengthening their friendship and gaining a reputation as fearless explorers. Isabel, now an integral part of the group, brought a new perspective and a desire to help others. The legend of the ghost student of St. Clair continued to be told, but now with a different ending. Laura was no longer a restless presence in the hallways, but a symbol of the search for peace and resolution. The friends knew that, regardless of future challenges, they were ready to face them together. And so, another horror story came to an end. But the lessons of courage, friendship, and compassion remained. The hallways of St. Clair High School would never be the same, and Laura's memory would continue to inspire those who dared to look beyond fear. As the friends reflected on the events of that night, they realized there was still much to learn and explore. They decided that the search for answers and the willingness to help others would be their mission, continuing to investigate mysteries and legends that crossed their path. School life went on, but the last day of classes at St. Clair High School now carried special significance. Students began to approach stories and legends with a mix of curiosity and respect, knowing that amidst the fear, there was always the possibility of finding the truth and making a difference. And so, Laura's story and the courage of her friends became an indelible part of the school's legacy, reminding everyone that the real terror is not just in the ghosts that haunt the hallways, but in the lack of empathy and understanding when facing the unknown. With that, the second story of horror stories about the last day of school comes to an end. Each school holds dark secrets and untold stories, but also offers opportunities to show courage and compassion. Get ready, because the next story will be equally disturbing and revealing. The Curse of the Substitute Teacher. New Hope Primary School, located in a small town, had a reputation for being a quiet and welcoming place where everyone knew each other. However, this last day of classes would bring to light a story that would forever change the lives of the students and teachers of that institution. It all started with the arrival of a new substitute teacher, Mr. Albert. He was a middle-aged man with an austere appearance and eyes that seemed to look directly into your soul. 5th grade students, always curious, quickly noticed something strange about him. There were rumors that he had been a teacher at several schools, but never stayed long at any of them. That morning, as the students prepared for the last day of classes, Mr. Albert entered the classroom with a severe expression. "Good morning, class," he said in a voice that sent a shiver down everyone's spine. "Today will be a special day. We will learn something you will never forget." The students looked at each other, intrigued and a little scared. Among them were Julia, Richard, Mary, and Philip, inseparable friends who loved solving mysteries. They sat together, trying to decipher what made Mr. Albert so unsettling. During the lesson, Mr. Albert began talking about ancient rituals and local legends, something completely outside the usual curriculum. He mentioned an old curse that said an evil spirit inhabited the school, and that once a year, it needed a sacrifice to maintain its strength. The students listened in silence, feeling a mix of fear and fascination. "This is just a story, right?" Mary asked, trying to appear brave. Mr. Albert looked at her fixedly, the eyes shining strangely. "Not all stories are just stories," he replied enigmatically. Throughout the day, strange events began to occur. Objects moved on their own, shadows danced on the walls, and inaudible whispers echoed through the hallways. The friends decided to investigate, believing there was more to the story than Mr. Albert let on. During recess, they met in the library, where they began researching the school's history, and Mr. Albert himself. Richard, the most tech-savvy of the group, used an old computer to access the city's digital archives. They found an old newspaper article about a teacher named Albert, who had been accused of occult practices at several schools. "This explains a lot," Julia said, showing the article to her friends. "He must be trying to perform some kind of ritual here." Mary frowned. "But why? What does he gain from it?" "Maybe he's trying to strengthen the evil spirit or gain some kind of power," Philip suggested. "Either way, we need to stop him." They decided the best way to find out more was to follow Mr. Albert after classes. When the bell rang, signaling the end of the day, they waited patiently for all the other students to leave. Mr. Albert was visibly annoyed by the delay of the four friends, but said nothing. As soon as they had the chance, they followed him through the dark hallways. He descended to the basement, a place rarely visited and rumored to be where the evil spirit resided. The friends hid behind a wall, watching as Mr. Albert began preparing an improvised altar, candles and strange symbols. "What is he doing?" Julia whispered, her heart racing. "I don't know, but it can't be good," Richard replied. "We need to find a way to stop this." As Mr. Albert muttered words in an unknown language, friends felt the temperature drop drastically. An oppressive presence filled the air, and they knew the spirit was manifesting. Philip remembered a book they had found in the library that mentioned a protection ritual against evil spirits. "We need to perform that protection ritual," he said, pulling the book from his backpack. "But we'll need some ingredients." They ran back to the library, grabbing salt, a white candle, and a bay leaf, the necessary items for the ritual. They returned to the basement, where Mr. Albert was nearly finished with his own ritual. The shadows around him were moving sinisterly, as if coming to life. "Hurry," Mary said, starting to draw a circle of salt around the group. Julia lit the white candle, and Richard held the bay leaf, ready to burn it. As Philip recited the words of the protection ritual, a bright light emanated from the salt circle, driving away the shadows. Mr. Albert looked at them, his eyes filled with rage. "What are you doing?" he shouted, his voice echoing supernaturally. "We're stopping you," Julia replied with renewed courage. "You won't hurt anyone anymore." Mr. Albert tried to advance but was blocked by the light of the protection circle. The shadows around him began to dissipate, and the evil spirit let out a piercing scream before disappearing completely. The basement fell silent, and Mr. Albert collapsed to the ground, exhausted and defeated. "You don't understand," he murmured. "I was trying to control the spirit. Protect you." The friends exchanged confused looks. "Protect us?" Richard asked. "Yes," Mr. Albert replied, struggling. "The spirit needs an annual sacrifice. If it's not controlled, it will become stronger and uncontrollable." Julia frowned. "So you were doing this to protect the school?" "Yes," Mr. Albert said. "But you interrupted the ritual. Now it's free, and I no longer have the strength to contain it." Friends felt a wave of guilt and concern. "We need to find another way to stop the spirit," Mary said. "Can't let it loose." With Mr. Albert's reluctant help, the friends began researching a way to capture and contain the spirit again. They found an old manuscript that mentioned an artifact capable of sealing evil spirits, an ancient amulet hidden in the school. The search for the amulet led them to a room locked for decades. With the key provided by Mr. Albert, they entered the room and found the amulet in a dusty glass case. It was a small object but radiated an aura of power. "This should work," Philip said, carefully picking up the amulet. "But how do we use it?" Mr. Albert, now weak and remorseful, explained that the amulet needed to be activated with the energy of a specific ritual. "Place it on the altar and recite these words," he said, handing them a parchment with the instruction. They returned to the basement and placed the amulet on the altar. As they recited the words from the parchment, the amulet began to shine intensely. Powerful energy filled the air, and the friends felt a malevolent presence being drawn into the amulet. Suddenly, a shadowy figure emerged from the darkness, struggling to break free. It was the evil spirit, now weakened, still dangerous. With a final effort, the friends continued the ritual, and the amulet shone even brighter, pulling the spirit into itself. With a final scream, the spirit was sealed in the amulet, and the basement fell silent. The friends collapsed to the ground, exhausted but relieved. Mr. Albert looked at them with gratitude and sadness. "You did it," he said weakly. "The spirit is contained, but remember, it can be released again if the amulet is destroyed." "We'll keep it safe," Julia promised, holding the amulet firmly. Friends helped Mr. Albert out of the basement and took him to the infirmary. He was weak but relieved. "I know I was wrong to try to control the spirit alone," he said, "but now, thanks to you, the school is safe." In the following days, the friends reflected on the experience. The story of Mr. Albert and the evil spirit spread through the school. Few believed it. However, those who knew the truth were determined to keep the amulet safe and protect the school from future dangers. The last day of classes at New Hope Primary School became a symbol of courage and unity. The friends knew that, regardless of future challenges, they were ready to face them together. The story of the evil spirit and the substitute teacher was passed down from generation to generation, reminding everyone that true strength lies in friendship and courage. And so the third story of horror stories about the last day of school comes to an end. Each school holds dark secrets and untold stories, but also offers opportunities to show courage and compassion. Always remember, true terror is not just in the ghosts and spirits that haunt the hallways, but in the lack of understanding and empathy when facing the unknown. And so, the legends of the schools continue to be passed down from generation to generation, teaching important lessons about courage and the importance of facing our fears together.